Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from Solo Games, and today's topic is going to be the rising price of Magic the Gathering. So, how do we get here? What happened? Looking back, why is everything so expensive now? Is it actually expensive? So recently, there's been some talks, right? Mark Rosewater's Tumblr or Blogatog or whatever he's doing. Some player asked, like, hey, why is casual formats like Magic, Commander being monetized so heavily, right? And then Mark Rosewater literally said, hey, guess what? There's a lot of value in the pack, so we're gonna have to charge you a lot of money for it. Basically recognizing secondary market value without actually saying those words, right? And of course, MTG Goldfish had the same topic on their podcast this week as well. So I think it's pretty obvious now. I think a lot of the players are asking, what's going on? Why is Magic this way? Well, the first thing we want to figure out is it actually true? Is Magic more expensive now than it was before, let's say 2, 3, 4 years ago? I think, and of course, other than standard increases like inflation, those kind of economic situations where you can't really, change, is it actually more expensive substantially? So what are the facts? Well, the first things first, yes, Magic is probably more expensive, right? So standard boxes have been increasing in price since Throne of Eldraine. 2019, Magic was around like $90, 95 maybe, if you buy them online, whatever pricing. Think Ravnica, think, like War of Spark type of age. That's the price you expect a draft booster, right? Of course, going into Throne of Eldraine in that set, it was increased a little bit, and of course just kept on going higher and higher and higher until we're here now where basically most draft boosters out of the gate is around 110, up from like 95, 90. So yes, drastically it is more expensive than back then, right? That's like almost like 20-25% increase, which is pretty substantial, right? Set boosters. Well, set boosters have definitely, caught up in price recently, but part of the reason for that is because set boosters were always artificially lower in price from the beginning. So in Zendikar Rising, when they introduced set boosters, they really did this thing to kind of like boost sales. I remember buying from distributors, and I remember like set boosters costed less than draft boosters, which, while it does have less packs, it had substantially more rares and mythic rares and like list slots. So you had a lot of ways to basically make up all of the difference. Plus, every pack having a foil, and the foil could be of any rarity, like it definitely boosted your rates of pulling like better cards in set boosters. So I think mostly with set boosters, they've just caught up on what they should have been charged in the first place, which is usually about like $10 or so premium to the draft booster nowadays. So that's where set boosters are. Okay, what about commander decks? Well, I think commander decks have by and large been about that $40 range for the annual commander deck, right? But the problem is we just have a lot more commander decks, and there's like premium versions of this or that commander deck. So I guess there's like a lot more options and there's a lot more like choices. And so technically, yes, you're right. Commander decks are more expensive than before, but there are also cheaper versions, and ignoring the starter decks, you still have commander decks like the ones for each set. And a lot of times the retail price for those can be like as low as $20-25. So that's actually pretty cheap. But of course, 40K, you're looking at like $40 each commander deck. And now like with Commander Masters, I don't know what's going on, but I guess the retail price, if you get a decent deal, is like 80, 95. It's pretty insane, right? Okay, guys, sidebar, warning type of thing. Do not fall for the craziness on TCG Player buying like Eldrazi decks for $180. There's plenty of commander decks to go around. Do not pay that kind of price. Obviously, the decks are cool. It's Eldrazi, it's Sliver, whatever. Do not pay that kind of price. Okay, just be careful. Yeah. What about what I call tier 2 sets, right? So these are not like your standard 10-pole sets, but these are like not master sets either. They're kind of in the middle. So this would include the remaster sets, or maybe like the Modern Horizons set, or like the Lord of the Rings set. Well, most of those are, again, that range is pretty large, but most of them sit around that 180 or so MSRP. Sorry, there's no MSRP anymore. I keep forgetting, right? But out of the gates, LGSs around that first pre-sale week, whatever, sell it for about $180. So that hasn't really changed from Modern Horizons 1 to now. It's about that price still. It is what it is, okay? What about master sets? So master sets, and we have to look way back because it's a little different back then. But master sets were always basically expensive. I mean, the first master sets, I think, were always $240 for effectively only 24 packs, right? It's just for drafting, and you didn't have enough packs for like prize support. And I mean, $240 is $10 a pack. Now, there were some like sets that were trying to like do things where it's like $7 a pack. We won't really talk about them. But in general, they're pretty expensive, right? Of course, there was a big shift when Ultimate Masters came out and it was like pushed up to 335 MSRP. And that was a pretty big deal. A lot of people complained. And that's a pretty hefty bump. And part of that was because Wizards of the Coast was like, hey, we're going to really put value into the set, right? So again, they're thinking there's the secondary market. The secondary market has determined that these cards are worth money. Well, what if we put those cards into the box? We can just sell the lottery tickets to, boost the boxes. Obviously, right? Like that's what they're doing. And it worked. Ultimate Master was hugely successful. I I paid like 400 something years later, obviously for those boxes. So, a lot of people got to enjoy them with me, etc. But what about now, like Double Masters, those kind of things? Yes, they are more expensive, but at the same time, like I think Double Masters now is like 240, 250-ish, the draft boosters. And then Double Masters 1 is more expensive, but only because it was so short printed. Like there was a supply shock and continues to be a supply shock. And the problem is, honestly, I don't even think that price will hold long term because realistically, all the cards in Double Masters number 1 will get reprinted, and it looks like they're going to get reprinted soon, right? You have Doubling Season coming in, Commander Masters as well, and other things like that. So realistically, everything is just like basically in a pool of, look, it's about the same price, right? So Double Masters 2022 is $240. It's like not substantially more expensive than what master sets were before, and it's kind of like double the rares. So isn't it like cheaper because of it? Like, isn't it technically worse because they're giving you double the actual amount of rares, but charging you still the same price? So there's that. So to answer the question of is Magic actually more expensive, I would still say, given all those facts that we've just talked about, that yes, it is more expensive. Like you can call it inflation, rise in wages, Asian Aragorn needs to get paid, whatever you want to call it, right? It's fine. But it's absolutely true. Prices are on the rise, and they've kind of been on the rise, and they've been a little bit more aggressive about increasing prices in the last 2 years, which is probably what you're feeling. But exactly what changed? Like why and how did we get here, right? So Commander players, honestly, like here's the thing. You're just being monetized, and you're now feeling it, and you're really feeling it with Commander Masters, right? And the amount of products, the whole rate of releases, the actual variants of products have also increased, right? So that's why basically we are where we are now, right? So let's talk about those kind of elements. First, more stuff to buy. Well, remember, back in the old school Magic days, you just bought a draft boosters. A new set comes out, you buy the draft boosters, that's it. There's no set boosters, collector's boosters, commander deck sets with everything, none of that stuff, right? But now there's like more product lines. So first of all, for every single set they release, there's like set boosters, draft boosters, pre-release kits, bundle this, gift bundles, complete edition bundles, bundle your mom in there, all sorts of bundles, right? Crazy amount of stuff. Secret layers this, like direct to consumer that. Like it's insane amount of products that come out. Like each set, I don't know if you guys know this, they actually release secret layers that tie with sets. So there's like a Phyrexia All Would Be One special set of 3 secret layers, whatever. So there's just more than ever amount of products. And then the releases have been increased too. Now, if you just count standard sets, like, your general things that they built normally, like, Eldraine, Neon Dynasty, those kind of things, there are still about four or five-ish, I think, per year, right? So, like, for example, we'll take last year. Like, last year started with Neon Dynasty, then we had Streets of New Capenna, then we had, AFR? Whatever that summer set was. And then we had, Brothers War, right? And Dominaria United. So, yeah, 5 sets. So that's basically, sorry, not AFR. What was it? Baldur's Gate. Okay, so they did Baldur's Gate like a sidebar set, right? But like sets where they had core sets, they would do like 4 to 5 sets a year. And that was already, kind of accelerated from the old school days of like about 3 to 4 sets instead of like 4 to 5. And they were doing this like weird double sets in the winter type of like, because, people have more money to buy for gifts. So really push that. And then in addition to all of that, now there's like all this extra stuff. Like, this year we have like Commander Masters, right? There's a Master set, but there's already a Modern set. So normally in years where in the past they would release a Modern Horizon set, they wouldn't release a Master set that year. The next year would be a Master set. But now they're basically jamming 2 for 1, right? So you got Master sets going in the winter. Then you have already a Lord of the Rings set, which is the Commander Modern Horizons 3 set, basically. And then there's a Doctor Who Commander set or whatever in the middle. It's like Secret Lair, but in a box. I don't know what's going on, right? And then of course in the winter you're going to get some other stuff. So there's just a lot more sets. Oh, sorry, Lord of the Rings Part 2 is in the winter, right? So there's like 10. I think nowadays I'm counting like about 10 releases per year, which is pretty insane for any Magic player to keep up. And then look, you add on top of that, there's like premium versions of everything. So there's like collector's boosters, you get like gift bundles, and just having bundles wasn't enough. They have to basically make a collector's version of the bundles, right? The gift bundles. That was supposed to be a winter thing, and that was supposed to be low quantity printing, like what they did for Eldraine. But it was so successful. They just started doing that for everything, and they started doing it like in the middle of the year. Hey, here's your Christmas bundle in the summer. Why am I buying Christmas? Hey, it's winter in Argentina, basically, right? Yes, people. So hey guys, North Americans, we're privileged that in the summer it's hot. Down in the south, like Argentina, South Africa, it's like really cold right now. It's freaking winter. Okay, FYI. We think about summer as like June. They think of summer as December. It's really freaky when you think about it. The world is a round ball. I know. Okay, and Asian Aragorn is definitely from the north, so there you go. Second point, right? The price swings are higher. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't really think about, but something is made to feel more expensive when you see that there's cheaper versions of it available. What I mean by this is like, you would think Dominaria United or Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, Crimson Vow Collector's Booster is expensive because there was an Amazon dump for it for like $50, $90, right? That price swing and difference, like Dominaria Remastered was expensive because Amazon dumped it at $110, right? And you probably bought it like me, like $150, $170, $180, whatever, right? And that difference is truly what makes it feel more expensive than it actually is. And likely that's going to happen with Lord of the Rings. That's going to happen with a Commander Master set, the Doctor Who set. The Doctor Who set, by the way, fun fact. I guess it's not a fact, right? But I wonder what the print run for that thing is going to look like. Now, if it's super short printed, those sets are going to be very expensive. But if it's printed even anywhere near a normal amount, holy hell, dude, I think that set's going to bomb. So there's that. Yeah. The problem is, look, even if there's no Amazon dump, right, you're looking at like a 25% price swing between pre-release and the month after. And if there's any amount of Amazon dumping, I mean, you're looking at 50 to 75% of a price difference. And what kind of players can take that? They look at those things and they're saying like, man, that's so expensive. I just paid, you can't sell a collector's booster, right, for like $240, $250, when just yesterday you sold the one from like 4 or 5 months ago for $110, right? To players, that difference of 50% is huge. And that's the problem. That, at the core, is why a lot of people feel Magic's so expensive. And lastly, and here's the reality. I know a lot of people didn't like my opinion about Commander and how it's destroying Magic, but you're seeing it right here, man. Commander players. Let me tell you a secret and break it down to you. You're being monetized. You're being monetized heavily. Do you remember when WotC said something about like OGL and we're going to have to monetize the Dungeons & Dragons player because they're not paying money for it? Well, guess what happens when you play Commander? Well, once you build your deck, once you put all the expensive stuff in there, you're not really going to like pay anymore, right? And like the cards from Onslaught, the cards from like, old school Alpha Beta, unlimited Magic that you need for your Commander deck or want for your Commander deck, well, they're not being reprinted today, right? So when you buy those cards to build your deck, it's cool for you, but Magic and Wizard and Hasbro, Daddy Hasbro, Chris Cox, is not making money. Cynthia Williams is not getting her Ferrari number 5. So to solve this problem, we got to print what you need for your deck into a set. Now, I can't just put Doubling Season, Jeweled Lotus, Black Lotus, White Lotus, Asian Lotus, right, into sets without charging you for it. And that's the key. So you understand what's happening, right? So I could say, hey, you know what? You go buy that from, your LGS. Support the store. Support the player. Support the community, right? You could go out there and buy that. Or you want an Ensnaring Bridge, right? Hey, buy a Lord of the Rings set. You might get an Ensnaring Bridge. Box topper, right? Oh, you want a great henge. Oh, instead of going to the store, why don't you just buy it from me directly? I'll sell it to you, right? That's what's happening, right? You're being monetized. They're looking at it saying, man, I'm losing sales, right? These guys out there are making the money. Well, what happens if I just print that for the players instead? Thus, Commander Masters. And here's the thing, right? They're testing the water. They keep pushing this thing. Commander decks are getting more and more expensive. 40K was a bump, right? And now we're getting these like $75 Commander decks. Are they worth their money? Maybe. Are they great with great cards? Reprints? Absolutely. But the value is like this, right? They're putting, let's say, I don't know, $120 worth of cards, but they're just printing them. They're actually increasing the base population. And people don't understand this, right? Like, okay, here's a good one. Herald's Horn. Herald's Horn is a good card, right, for Commander. And everybody like kind of wants one. But what happens when you keep printing Herald's Horn? Those things are like $1 now. So if I sold you a deck and said, hey, this one has a Herald's Horn in it, right? When the Herald's Horn's worth $10, you'd probably be very willing to pay $40 for the deck because it's got a Herald's Horn and some other staples. But if I keep printing those and keep printing them, where Herald's Horn is now $1, how do you feel about paying $40 for your deck? It's expensive now, right? Well, guess what happened? Wizard of the Coast is just monetizing you more. And that's what's going to happen. Like, honestly, there's no solution for this because, look, we're going to play the games. We're going to want the cards we want to play with. You're going to buy whatever you're going to buy, and you can't stop buying it. That's the problem, right? Wizard of the Coast will say things like, oh, you should just engage with the products you like. When you sit at a table and the friend from across the street over there is like pulling out all these cards from the new sets, guess what? You're engaging with the product. Do you like it? No. You have to engage with it though, right? So what do? It's an arms race. You go home, you go on TCG Player, you buy more cards. You buy cards. Okay, so you think a lot of people think, oh, buying singles solve this problem. I'm not fueling WotC directly. Are you sure? Because the more singles you buy, that raises the price of what? The EV for the box, right? And when the EV for the box goes up, then what happens? LGSs buy more products. So effectively, buying singles, by the way, I'm sorry, is also fueling WotC. This whole buying single thing, it doesn't solve the actual problem underlying, right? It just makes it so that basically the whole thing pushes forward more. The game can't be both cheap and expensive at the same time. And Wizard of the Coast will have to make money. And we can say all what we want about reprint this, reprint that, whatever, but you're going to keep getting products that are more expensive with reprints. And that's exactly how this is going to go. The pipe dream of hey, I want all the staple reprints, but can we make the boxes $90? That's not going to happen, guys. Why would Wizard of the Coast leave money on the table? Guess what? You're going to get monetized. And the more you like Commander, the more you're willing to spend money, the more they're going to print this stuff. And sure, it's great, right? You're like, hey, it doesn't matter, Mark. I can pay $300 for a Commander, Masters draft booster or whatever, because I can pull $400 in card value from it. So I don't really lose money. I'll be fine. Talk to me in about a year. Talk to me when you want to sell that Commander Masters, box of cards that are worth $400 in about 5 years. See how much I pay you for that. I guarantee you, I probably wouldn't even pay you more than $50. And that's the craziest part about this that a lot of players don't understand and don't realize. The cards can't be both expensive and cheap at the same time. And while we can say all we want about let's reprint it so everything will be cheaper, no. The cards will be cheaper when you have them, but when Wizard of the Coast sells them to you, they're going to be very expensive. And that's exactly how it's going to stay. How do you solve this problem? Speak up. Vote with your wallet. Just don't buy it, right? if we actually say, hey, like Commander Masters, I don't care how much I love doubling season, I'm just not going to buy it. I'm going to wait instead and just not engage with that product. I'm going to go buy older versions of doubling season instead, right? That might be the way to solve this problem. But again, it's the same thing. There's a underlying pool for all the cards, and people are going to want them for decks, and they're going to buy it. And that's no matter what you buy, whether you buy the older version, the newer version, it's all going to push the market up. And that's just kind of like the way it is. But at this point in the video, I actually have a warning for WotC too. The reality of all this stuff with reprints and whatever is that it's all catching up to WotC now. As you can see, Secret Lair sales have been slumping, and people aren't just engaging with Secret Lairs anymore. And a lot of people are ratting on the newest Secret Lair. And I mean, for all the people who are like, against like cards being cheap, whatever, why don't you pay $40 for a 2-cent card? Because it's not worth your money, right? It's kind of how it works. See, when cards are cheap like that, you don't want to pay for it, even if it's like supporting the artist or like it's the artwork you like. People aren't going to pay that kind of price. That's the reality of it. But at the same time, Wizards of the Coast, as you can see, is running out of reprint equity, because at some point they're going to reprint all the cards with all the products that are coming out. They're going to reprint all the cards so much that they just won't have any more. And then what happens? Well, there's a couple things they can do. Tap into reserve list. But even that, there's a limit to that, right? First of all, it's going to cost them ire and all that stuff. But Wizards of the Coast has basically shown their hand. They don't really care about this stuff. They can cause all the pain, drama, whatever. They don't care, right? But at the same time, what happens when you finish reprinting the reserve list? Then what happens? Then when you've lost even that reprint equity, guess what? Maybe you just be more creative. Make better cards, right? Make things that are interesting. Create things that customers want to engage with. And realistically, stop over monetizing your players. I mean, how much money do you want Wizards of the Coast to make? It's making like $1 billion a year. Does it really need to make any more than that? It's insane. Anyways, that's going to do it for me for today. Mark Solar Games. I'm kind of sad now, but you need to stay classy.